The Dark Souls series is very highly rated, loved by many. It's a world you just lose yourself in, with the attention to detail and the challenge that the series provides, but overall, what we love most is the bosses. So here on Gavinchi TV, we're going to count down those top 10 bosses from the Dark Souls Trilogy. What makes them so special? Why they're such a challenge? Remember, there are spoilers ahead. So, with that, let's have some fun. So I'm in the undead parish, and after the last enemy I encountered, it's been relatively quiet now for quite some time. Eventually I find a set of ladders, and at the top of there, a door with a white light. Boss time. As you proceed through the white light, you appear on the roof of the undead parish, and a movie screen kicks in. The first thing I notice about the gargoyles on the top of the bell tower is that there is in fact two. So let's be clear, there are two gargoyles of distinctively different colour. A game of this difficulty and challenge wouldn't possibly make you face two now, would it? Or would it? Here we have the bell gargoyle. He screeches and jumps down from the tower right in front of you. Next thing, he jumps straight towards you. He's very agile and fast, deals lots of damage, and his attacks cover a long range. As long as you're patient with your attacks, move frequently, defend yourself and try to keep the gargoyle as busy as possible, he can be overcome. Until the second bell gargoyle appears. I knew it! I just knew it! Now that there are two bell gargoyles, patience is a virtue. The battle has now become a real challenge. You have to try and avoid the attacks of each of the gargoyles carefully, avoid the fire, and time correctly when to attack, as if you don't, they'll soon get the upper hand. This boss was the first real boss that upped its game. It threw another adversary in front of you and you had to think on your feet quick. For that level of surprise and challenge, it easily earns itself the number 10 spot. I'm just glad there's only two gargoyles. I don't know if I can handle much more than that. Free? Now I love dragons, and dragon bosses are even better, and Dark Souls is certainly no stranger to them. With the Gaping Dragon from Dark Souls 1, the Ancient Dragon and Sin the Slumbering Dragon from Dark Souls 2, and let's not forget...
Wrong game.
Though here in Dark Souls 3 we have the Ancient Wyvern. And this boss isn't like any other boss in the series, as there are two ways in which to defeat it. There's option A, which is to defeat the dragon like any other boss in the series, though this is the more hardcore approach and will take a considerable amount of time. The Wyvern can be defeated this way, but I found it more of an easier option for magic users and people with archery. As you can tell, I'm more of a hands-on heavy blade kind of guy, so I prefer option B. Option B is to get to this point, above the Wyvern. So let's see how we get there. So after running around the majority of Archdragon Peak and escaping the Wyvern, you eventually flank him above his head, so now it's just a case of timing correctly to deliver that final blow. This boss was original, it was different, you didn't have to fight him in the normal sense, the Wyvern could be outsmarted, and for that, it earned the 9th spot. For this next entry, I'm bringing some friends with me, and no matter what goes on through that mist, we're going to have some fun, because there's 3 of us, and nothing can possibly stop us. Here we have the Looking Glass Knight, formerly known as the Mirror Knight. He has a huge sword and a huge mirror shield. He may not be the fastest, but his attacks do some real damage. He draws lightning and attacks with his huge sword, so you have to make sure your shield's up at all times. Luckily I have some help with me, so they keep him distracted while I can get some decent attacks in. And that huge mirror shield isn't just for show. He can drop it and release out his own NPCs to help aid him in battle. I'm not happy with this. A boss that's allowed to summon his own NPCs. I wouldn't even dream of doing anything like that. The only reason I'm content with it is because at least he's clean. It's nice to fight a nice clean boss for a change. The Looking Glass Knight looks the part, deals out some serious damage, and with his ability to be able to produce NPCs to aid him in battle, providing even more of a fight, easily puts himself in the 8th spot. This boss is exciting, original, extremely hard, and has not one, not two, but 3 phases. And also shows some in-depth lore about how a certain somebody became under the thumb. Sister Fried is the eldest of 3 sisters who founded the Sable Church of Londor. She is unkindled, suggesting that she failed with the first flame, whatever her intentions may have been. With that, she abandons the church, stumbling upon Ariandor and his painted world. She then tricks him by telling him that the only way of preserving the painted world is by suppressing the fire with his own blood and prevent it from being burned to the ground, and resulting in rot that afflicts it. So Ariandel goes out of his way to preserve the painted world, and this little she-wolf comes out of nowhere, puts him under the thumb and tells him what to do. Phase 1. Sister Fried wields a scythe, uses frost and invisibility. She is very dangerous, and to attack her relentlessly won't achieve anything. It's all about timing and attacking at the opportune moment. With Sister Fried down, Ariander was enraged. He slams the bowl containing the flame upon her blood to revive her. Phase 2. The second phase of the battle begins, and now we have to battle Sister Fried and Ariander. One extremely fast, agile, and the other slow but dangerously powerful. This battle is about perfect timing and deciding carefully about what and when to attack next, otherwise you'll find yourself completely overwhelmed. With Sister Fried down, Ariandel shortly follows, so we started cheering for victory, only to hear talking in the background, and what do you know? And now for the third and final phase. Black Flame Fried appears out of nowhere. She is a lot quicker, does much more damage, and now attacks with Black Flame. Her attacks now are relentless, and if you get caught in her grasp, the odds of you escaping are slim. So the best bet is to stay clear as much as possible and attack only when possible, though do not get greedy. Overall, I found this boss extremely exciting. The lore behind the 2 characters, the 3 phases, the difficulty and challenge, the tactics you needed to survive. I'm grateful that I had some aid come to help me with this battle, and as a result it earns a number 7 spot. Yes, that's right, that was me dying over and over on the Fume Knight, which some people would consider the hardest boss in Dark Souls 2, some even possibly the hardest boss in Dark Souls series, and you'd find a tough argument against it. So for this boss, make sure you find those smelter wedges and you're in for a fight. So this is the Fume Knight. He has an ultra great sword, his attacks do serious damage, and he is relentless as a boss. You really do have to keep moving or it's all over. It's all about timing correctly. About halfway through the battle, he infuses his ultra greatsword with dark fire. He has a few new moves, but his attacks are even stronger. So timing, pacing, and knowing when to attack is essential in winning this battle. This is one of those bosses where it shows you, unless you're extremely lucky, that you really need a level of skill. The difficulty, the challenge, how you have to think about taking him on, the way this boss is seen as one of the toughest bosses in the whole series, he's certainly earned that title. So as a result, he earns the number 6 spot. Our next entry is a great warrior and a god once known as the Lord of Sunlight. He ended the Age of the Ancients, alongside Gravelord Nito, the Witch of Izalith, Sif the Scaleless, and his faithful knights. For disputed reasons, he sacrificed himself to link the First Flame 1000 years before the events of Dark Souls, and thus began the Age of Fire.
So this guy basically is the whole reason for the Dark Souls story. The lore, everything that happens. Personally, I like to thank him because it's great. Just obviously at distance, I wouldn't really want to lose my face.
So here we have Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, the final boss of the original Dark Souls 1. He is ridiculously fast, extremely aggressive, and has an incredible melee range. I learnt personally the extent of his range and just how fast he is.
Note to self, don't try to run away.
Gwyn uses an array of flurries, but also if he catches you, he really hurts. So try your best to avoid him at all times. Also use the obstacles in the room to your advantage, as every precious second counts. Everything in Dark Souls led up to this battle, and it was a worthy challenge, and for that, Gwyn easily earns the number 5 spot. For our next entry, we find ourselves in Elam Lois, looking for the uncorrupted knights to aid us in battle, as they provide an immense level of help. Just finding the knights themselves is a really difficult challenge on its own, but trust me, it's really worthwhile for the level of assistance you gain during this next battle. And let's not forget Twiggy Shy either. With Twiggy Shy and the uncorrupted knights ready, it's time to enter the fog and descend into the old chaos. Geronimo!
Sorry about that, I just always wanted to do that.
This is a fierce battle right from the go, with corrupted knights coming out of portals one by one to take you on. Luckily with Twiggy Shy and the uncorrupted knights I was able to save, aid me in battle. As time goes on, the uncorrupted knights sacrifice themselves to close the portals to prevent any further corrupted knights coming through. This is why it was so important to find them to help you in this battle. With the corrupted knights defeated and all portals shut down bar one final portal waits to reveal itself. Take your vitamins and get yourself amped up and ready, because
here comes the Burnt Ivory King.
The Burnt Ivory King comes charging at you and attacks straight away. The corrupted knights were a challenge themselves, but the Burnt Ivory King makes them out to be child's play, and there's only one of him as opposed to multiple numbers of them. The Burnt Ivory King is really fast, powerful, has massive range, and it can be really difficult to get a decent attack in. Luckily, with the aid you've acquired, they provide decent distraction, so make the most of them because they won't last long. The Burnt Ivory King provides a fantastic challenge. The fact that you need to seek out aid even before the battle, and when the battle begins, you're in for a real fight. He's very quick and powerful. He buffs his sword and deals out even more damage, and you really have to think about this one. You can't just attack relentlessly. And for that, overall, he earns the number 4 spot.
This next entry has one of the coolest hairstyles in video games. It's up with the likes of Zero, Bayonetta, Waka, the Saiyans. Just wait and see, it's a pretty cool hairstyle.
This is the Nameless King, and he has one hell of an intro for a boss. As he flies down on his dragon amongst the clouds, the first part of the battle begins. King of the Storm uses his dragon here to full effect, breathing fire, lunging over with his weapon, crushing you with the full force of his dragon. The dragon itself can easily be defeated, but if you're careless, the dragon can finish you off in seconds. Once the dragon is defeated, the Nameless King is pretty ticked off, to be blunt, so he looks upon his dragon and claims his soul, becoming even more powerful. He may have cool hair, but this has now become one of the hardest bosses in the series. This second phase of the battle is the Nameless King. He is very fast, moves all over the place, can jump to any distance, deals massive damage, has massive range and uses electricity. I thoroughly enjoyed this boss. It was hard as nails, a real challenge. The environment was different to any other boss, and the Nameless King is one of those bosses that really defines what Dark Souls is all about, and for that he earns the number 3 spot. Our number 2 entry is a pair of badasses, known quite simply as Ornstein and Smooth.
Wait a minute, did I pronounce that right? Ornstein and Smog? Smooth. Smoggle. Is the G silent? Maybe Ornstein and Smooth. Smoog? Ornstein and Smoggle. Maybe it's Ornstein I'm getting wrong. It's Ornstein. Ornstein and Smooth. We're going to go with that. Ornstein and Smooth.
Now we've decided on Ornstein and Smooth, what I can 100% tell you for fact is this boss is extremely creative. So you have 2 bosses to take on at once. One extremely fast, agile, the other very powerful but slow. With any scenario like this in any game, it's always best to focus on one, so then you just have one to deal with after.
But there's a reason this boss made it to the 2nd position. And no, it wasn't just because I couldn't pronounce the name correctly.
If you destroy one, he claims the soul of the other, becoming even more powerful. And the funny thing is, the battle was tough as it was, now it's become almost unbearable, and you really are going to die a lot. But what makes this boss so creative is no matter which way you do it, one absorbs the other. So if you think you're going to get the upper hand by, hang on, I'll defeat the other one first, maybe that's easier. No, they've already got the upper hand on you. As they're both just as difficult as one another, as you have to remember, they absorb the other's abilities.
So to beat these guys, make sure you're quick, can roll and move fast. Not like me wearing Havel's armour. I learnt the hard way.
When there's both of them, try to defeat them sensibly, saving as much health as possible for when one absorbs the other. It's at this point where you have to learn their attack patterns. Get a decent hit in when you can. Avoid. Use the obstacles around the room to your advantage. Make them come to you. Wait for them to make a mistake and attack. Overall, this boss was extremely creative. Very difficult no matter which way you did it. You had to think about it, and it was only just off the number 1 position, but it easily earns itself the number 2 spot.
No joking about, no fun and games this time. This is our number 1, Slave Knight Gil.
Slave Knight Gil is the final boss of the Ring City DLC in Dark Souls 3 and considered the final boss of the entire Dark Souls series. Everything you have learnt up to this point throughout the series, all the skills you have gained, a combination of everything comes together for this battle, because this is one of the hardest fights you are about to endure. You absolutely must not go into this battle unprepared. Make sure you farm those souls as much as possible, because what Orphan of Causes in Bloodborne, Slave Knight Gil is the Dark Souls series equivalent, the battle of battles. This boss is extremely quick, relentless. It's as if he doesn't take a moment to breathe, he just keeps coming at you. You've got to avoid him at every chance you can get. Watch out for those big moves because they do some serious damage. You have to pay attention to everything here. It's all about timing and waiting for that opportune moment to attack. Just when you think you're finally getting the hang of it and things couldn't get any worse, Slave Knight Gil hits his 2nd phase. On top of everything before, he now fires projectiles, can teleport. The damage that his blade delivers is even worse, and he literally just comes flying at you. Slave Knight Gil can just barely be staggered, but it's very difficult to achieve, and even so you have to decide how you're going to act next. Absolutely every second with Slave Knight Gil counts, and that counts even more so when he hits his third phase, as if you hesitate or think about it too long, it's all over. At this point, there's lightning on the battlefield, he fires soul projectiles at you, and you have to keep moving, otherwise the lightning builds up in the area you're at. This boss defines what the series is all about. Everything you have learned will be put to the test in this battle. For most players out there, that feeling you get when you finally defeat Slave Knight Gil is amazing, and to help achieve that I'd highly recommend online assistance, as overall Slave Knight Gil is the hardest and best boss of the Dark Souls trilogy, earning our #1 spot. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please remember to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. I'm also on Twitch on occasions. Also comment below, as feedback is most welcome, and check out some of my other videos. Thanks for watching, Gavinchi out. I'll see you next time.